We want to play the clip of Christian Walker, who is one of Herschel Walker's children, his son, who's something of a conservative TikTok influencer. This was seen as kind of a big October shakeup in the Atlanta Senate race. Here's the video from Christian.
I stayed silent as the atrocities committed against my mom were downplayed. I stayed silent when it came out that my father, Herschel Walker, had all these random kids across the country, none of whom he raised. And you know my favorite issue to talk about is father absence. Surprise, because it affected me. That's why I talk about it all the time, because it affected me. Family values, people. He has 4 kids, 4 different women, wasn't in the house raising one of them. He was out having sex with other women. Do you care about family values? I was silent, lie after lie after lie. The abortion card drops yesterday. It's literally his handwriting in the card. They say they have receipts, whatever. He gets on Twitter. He lies about it. Okay, I'm done. Done. Everything has been a lie.
So I think that was actually prompted by the report that Herschel Walker had paid for a woman's abortion back in 2009. But Ryan, the reason I think it's really worth talking about this example is because I actually don't think this changes the Senate race at all. I think it's sort of baked into Herschel Walker's character at this point in a similar way really to Donald Trump, that people knew by the time the Access Hollywood tape came out. Nobody was surprised by what it revealed about Donald Trump's character. And Dana Lash, who I know and I like, says she, quote, doesn't care if Herschel Walker paid, quote, some skank for an abortion, quote, I want control of the Senate. That is truly insight into the mind of Republican voters. And in Washington, people don't want to hear it. But especially, I'm not making a comparison between Herschel Walker and Roy Moore, but it was the same thing. You had the Beltway media asking, why are polls still showing 50% of Alabamans are going to vote for Roy Moore? And it comes down to abortion. It really, at the end of the day, comes down to abortion. If you are Raphael Warnock and you support abortion, people are still going to be voting for Herschel Walker because that is that important of an issue if you're a Republican voter.
Dana also said, I don't care if he paid to abort a bunch of baby bald eagles. I think something
bald eagles?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, wow.
I think she went for the bald eagles. She's like, I just want to win. Winning is a virtue. Which, then wouldn't you say things that are going to help you win? Like, that doesn't sound like...
I mean, she's not running for office.
She's not running for office, but she's still... Anyway, she can do whatever she wants, and I appreciate her being honest about this. I do think it's true that, a lot of Democrats... well, actually, I was going to say that if the same thing came out about Warnock, that a lot of Democrats would still stick by him, but I think that's... It's true, but there's enough on the margins that would say this undermines what I knew about him, and they would either stay home or they'd vote third party, or they would leave that one empty. I think Democrats don't quite have as much kind of partisan glue that holds them together at this point, because so much of their coalition is new, like these suburban voters who were liberal Republicans up until they might have voted for Mitt Romney, and so they don't have the kind of ride or die loyalty that some of the Republican base might have. But on the other hand, what's his name that you mentioned, the Alabama pedophile guy?
Oh, Roy Moore.
Yeah, Roy Moore. He lost.
Right.
So there was a margin of Republicans who were.
But that's a good example because it's like Raphael Warnock in this hypothetical. It cuts against the sort of consensus narrative about his character, right? So Raphael Warnock is not a high-flying ex-NFL superstar or a reality television show host who was a tabloid fixture. And I think that's the same thing. With Roy Moore, it completely cut against this character that he was running on and that people felt they knew. And it would be the same thing with Raphael Warnock, whereas with Donald Trump, it's like, maybe they pretend to be, all about family values or character or whatever, but I don't think anybody really believes that at the end of the day.
But if part of Walker's shtick was that he was fallen and a sinner, but he's now redeeming himself.
This confirms that for him. He can use it to say, I made a mistake.
Made a mistake, but what about having his very popular son, Christian son, out there?
That's bad.
Because that's today. Like that, he's saying, like what he's saying is today, Herschel Walker is still a liar. That this whole myth that he's trying to present to you of a man reformed is a lie. and I'm telling you as his son that it's a lie. As a son who tried to be supportive, who tried to like swallow so much of this stuff. So you think that could be a point or two?
It depends on how much people were actually buying what he was selling about being reformed and being, a sinner who has found grace. And I think that's
just a Republican and.
I think that's a fair question. I also think in the context of abortion politics, and there was this idea Democrats really believed after Kansas that this was going to be what would help them get over the hump in the midterm elections. And I think in some of these states, especially somewhere like Georgia, the more you can point to extremism and you can point to places, in the same way that the Democrats can point to places where Republicans and conservatives, myself included, are legitimately in the minority compared to public opinion. They can absolutely do that on abortion. There's no question about it. But you can do the same with Democrats. And Carrie Lake went super viral on the right this week for having an answer to a reporter who asked her in Arizona. And she said, I never hear you asking my opponent about why they believe in essentially late-term abortion. And that's become, I think, a really big issue in some of these races in some of these states that's actually helping Republicans. And I think that's where, with the Herschel Walker, it still comes down to, for voters, for Republican voters, that's a key issue, and it's an important one. So important, like Dana Lash said, that people really don't care. They don't have a lot of voices in the media. There aren't a lot of people in the media who make that argument, but it is a sincere argument that people make.
Right, and ultimately, Dana, is it? I always thought it was Loesch. It's Lash.
Lash. Yeah.
Dana Lash is right in the sense that you're voting for policy.
Right.
You're not voting for a person. You're voting for a person to enact policy. So if you trust a person to enact policy that you want, you I guess shouldn't care if they like to abort bald eagles or whatever.
Well, and that's the Donald Trump moment, right? Like if you think you're voting for a person, how naive, right? Like these are politicians, and at the end of the day, no matter what a good game they talk, they're politicians.
Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.